Hey, what's up, guys? I'm the ASMR guy, and welcome back to my reading of the BFG by Roald Dahl. God. Chapter 11: The Journey to Dream Country. After the mad Frobscottle party was over, Sophie settled herself again on top of the enormous table. "You is feeling better now?" asked the big friendly giant. "Much better, thank you," said Sophie. "Whatever I is feeling, a bit scrotty," the BFG said. "A few dollops of Frobscottle is always making me hopscotchy again." "I must say it is rather an experience," Sophie said. "It's a rat's whistler," the BFG said. "It is glorumchious." He turned away and strode across the cave and picked up his dream-catcher net. "I's galloping off now," he said, "to catch some more whoopsie whiffling dreams for my collection. I's doing this every day, without missing. Is you wishing to come with me?" "Not me, thank you very much," Sophie said. "Not with the other giants lurking outside. I is snuggling you very cosy into the pocket of my waistcoat," the BFG said. "No one is seeing you." Before Sophie could protest, he picked her up off the table and popped her into his waistcoat pocket. There was plenty of room in there. "Is you wishing for a little hole to peep out from?" he asked her. "There's one here already," she said. She had found a small hole in the pocket, and when she had put one eye close to it, she could see out very well indeed. She watched the BFG as he bent down and filled his suitcase with empty glass jars. He closed the lid and picked up the suitcase in one hand and took the pole with the net in the other hand and marched towards the entrance of the cave. As soon as he was outside, the BFG set off across the great hot yellow wasteland where the blue rocks lay and the dead trees stood, and where all the other giants were skulking about. Sophie, squatting low on her heels in the pocket of the leather waistcoat, had one eye glued to the little hole. She saw the group of enormous giants about 300 yards away. "Hold your breaths," said the BFG, whispering down to her. "Cross your fingers, and here we go. We's going right past all these other giants. Is you seeing that whopping great one, the one nearest to us?" "I see him," Sophie whispered back, quivering. "He is the horriblest of them all, and the biggest of them. He is called the flesh-lump-eating giant." "I don't want to hear about him," Sophie said. "He is 54 feet high," the BFG said, softly, as he jogged along. "And he is swallowing human beings up like those sugar lumps, 2 or 3 at a time." "You're making me nervous," Sophie said. "I is nervous myself," the BFG whispered. "I is always getting as jumpy as a jog hopper when the flesh lump-eating giant is around." "Keep away from him," Sophie pleaded. "Not possible," the BFG said. "He is galloping easily 2 times as quickly as me." "Shall we turn back?" Sophie said. "Turning back is worse," the BFG said. "If they see me running away, they is all giving chase and throwing rocks." "They would never eat you though, would they?" Sophie asked. "Giants is never guzzling other giants," the BFG said. "They is fighting and squirreling along with each other, but never guzzling. Humans is much more tasty to them." The giants had already spotted the BFG, and all heads were turning, watching as he jogged forward. He was aiming to pass well to the right of the group. Through her little peephole, Sophie saw the flesh lump-eating giant moving over to intercept them. He didn't hurry. He just lopped over casually to a point where the BFG would have to pass. The others loped after him. Sophie counted 9 of them altogether, and she recognised a blood bottler in the middle of them. They were bored. They had nothing to do until nightfall. There was an air of menace hiss about them as they loped slowly across the plain with long loping strides heading for the BFG. Here comes the runty one. Boom to the flesh lump eater. Ho ho there, runty one. Where is you splatch winkling away to in such a hefty hurry? He shot out an enormous arm and grabbed the BFG by the hair. The BFG didn't struggle. He simply stopped and stood quite still and said, "Be so kind as to be letting go of my hair, flesh lump eater." The flesh lump eater released him and stepped back a pace. The other giants stood around, waiting for the fun to start. "Now then, you little grub squiffler," boomed the flesh lump eater. "We is all wanting to know where you is galloping off to every day in the daytime. Nobody ought to be galloping off anywhere until it is getting dark. The human beings could easily be spotting you and starting a giant hunt, and we is not wanting to happen that, is we not?" "We is not," shouted the other giants. "Go back to your runty one." "I is not galloping to any human being country," the BFG said. "I is off to other places." "I is thinking," said the flesh lump eater, "that you is catching human beings and keeping them as pets." "Right you is," cried the blood bottler. "Just now I is hearing him chittering away to one of them in his cave." "You is welcome to go and search my cave from frack to bunt," the BFG answered. "You can go looking in every nook and cranny. There is no human beans, or stringy beans, or runner beans, or jelly beans, or any other beans in there." Sophie crouched as still as a mouse inside the BFG's pocket. She hardly dared to breathe. She was terrified that she might sneeze. The slightest sound or movement would give her away. Through the tiny peephole, she watched the giants clustering around the poor BFG. How revolting they were. All of them had picky little eyes and enormous mouths with thick sausage lips. When the flesh lump eater was speaking, she got a glimpse of his tongue. It was jet black, like a slab of black steak. Every one of them was more than twice as tall as the BFG, and suddenly the flesh lump eater shot out two enormous arms and grabbed the BFG around his waist. He tossed him high in the air and shouted, "Catch him, man-hugger!" The man-hugger caught him. The other giants spread out quickly in a large circle, each giant about 20 yards from his neighbour, preparing for the game they were about to play. Now the man-hugger threw the BFG high and far, shouting, "Catch him, Bone Cruncher!" The Bone Cruncher ran forward and caught the tumbling BFG and immediately swung him up again. "Catch him, Child Chewer!" he shouted, and so it went on. The giants were playing ball with the BFG, vying with each other till he confirmed the highest. Sophie dug her nails into the sides of the pocket, trying to prevent herself from tumbling out when she was upside down. She felt as though she were in a barrel going over the Niagara Falls. And all the time there was a fearful danger that one of the giants would fail to catch the BFG, and he would go crashing to the ground. "Catch him, Meat Dripper! Catch him, Gizzard Cloper! Catch him, Maid Masher! Catch him, Blood Bottler! Catch him, catch him, catch him!" In the end, they got bored with this game. They dumped the poor BFG on the ground. He was dazed and shattered. They gave him a few kicks and shouted, "Run, you little runt! Let us be seeing how fast you is galloping." The BFG ran. What else could he do? The giants picked up rocks and hurled them after him. He managed to dodge them. "Ruddy little runt," they shouted. "Troggy little twit. Shrivelly little shrimp. Mucky little midget. Squodgy little squib. Grubby little grub." At last the BFG got clear of them all, and in another couple of minutes the pack of giants were out of sight over the horizon. Sophie popped her head up from the pocket. "I didn't like that," she said. "Few," said the BFG. "Few and far between." They was in a nasty, crotching mood today, was they not? I isn't sorry you was having such a working time. No worse than you, Sophie said. Would you ever really hurt them? I isn't ever trusting them, the BFG said. How do you actually catch humans they eat? Sophie said. They's usually just sticking arm in through the bedroom window and snitching them from their beds, the BFG said. Like you did to me. Ah, but I isn't eating you, the BFG said. How else do they catch 'em? Sophie said. Sometimes, the BFG said, they're swimming in front of the sea like fishes, with only their heads showing above the water, and then comes out with big hairy hand and grabs someone off the beach. Children as well. Only chiddlers, the BFG said. The chiddlers who is building sandcastles on the beach. That is who the swimming, meddling ones are after. Little chiddlers is not so tough to eat as old grandmama. So says the chewing giant. As they talked, the BFG was galloping fast over the land. Sophie was standing right up in his waistcoat pocket now and holding onto the edge with both hands. Her head and shoulders were in the open and the wind was blowing in her hair. How else do they catch people? She said. All of them is having their own special ways of catching the human being, the BFG said. The meat-dripping giant is preferring to pretend he is a big tree and growing in the park. He is standing in the park in the dusky evening, and he is holding out great big branches over his head, and there he is waiting until some little happy family is coming to have a picnic under the spreading tree. The meat-dripping giant is watching them as they lay out their little picnic, but in the end it is the meat dripper who is having the picnic. It is too awful, Sophie cried. The gizzard gulping giant is a city lover, the BFG said. The gizzard gulper is lying high up between the roofs of the houses in the big cities. He is lying there, snuggy as a sniggler, and watching the human beings walking on the street below. And when he sees one that he likes the look of, and has a whoopsie good flavour, he grabs it. He is simply reaching down and snitching it off the street like a monkey taking a nut. He says it is nice to be able to pick and choose what you is having for supper. He says it is like choosing from a menu. Don't people see him doing it? Sophie asked. Nobody is ever seeing him. Do not forget it is dusky dark at this time. Also, the gizzard gobber has a very fast arm. His arm is going up and down quicker than Squinkers. But if all these people are disappearing every night, surely that's some sort of an outcry. The world is a whopping big place, the BFG said. There's 100 different countries. The giant is clever. They is careful not to be skittling off to the same country too often. They is always switch fiddling around. Even so, Sophie said. Don't forget, the BFG said, that human beings is disappearing everywhere all the time, even without the giants guzzling them up. Human beings is killing each other much quicker than giants is doing it. But they don't eat each other, Sophie said. Giants isn't eating each other either, the BFG said, nor is giants killing each other. Giants is not very lovely, but they is not killing each other. Nor is crocodile dillies killing other crocodile dillies, nor is pussycats killing other pussycats. They kill mice, Sophie said. Ah, but they is not killing their own kind, the BFG said. Human beings is the only animal that is killing their own kind. Don't poisonous snakes kill each other? Sophie asked. She was searching desperately for another creature that behaved as badly as the humans. Even poisonous snakes is never killing each other, the BFG said, nor is the most fearsome creatures like tigers and rhinoceroses. None of them is ever killing their own kind. Had you ever thought about that? Sophie kept silent. I is not understanding human beings was saying it is grisly and horrible for giants to be killing other human beings, right or left. Right, Sophie said. Human beings is squishing each other all the time, the BFG said. They is shooting guns and going up in aeroplanes and dropping their bombs on each other's heads every week. Human beings is always killing each other human beings. And he was right, of course, he was right. And Sophie knew it. She was beginning to wonder whether humans were actually any better than the giants. Even so, she said, defending her own race, I think it's rotten that these foul giants should go off every night to eat humans. Humans have never done them any harm. This is what the little piggy-wig is saying every day, the BFG answered. He is saying, I have never done any harm to the human beings, so why should he be eating me? Oh dear, Sophie said. The human beings is making rules to suit themselves, the BFG went on, but the rules they are making do not suit the little piggy wiggles. Am I right or am I left? Right, Sophie said. Giant is also making rules. Their rules are not suiting the human beings. Everybody is making his own rules to suit himself. But you don't like it that those beastly giants are eating humans every night, do you? Sophie asked. I do not, the BFG answered firmly. One right is not making two lefts. If you quite cozy down there in my pocket, I'm fine, Sophie said. Then suddenly, once again, BFG went to that magical top gear of his. He began hurtling forward with phenomenal leaps. His speed was unbelievable. The landscape became blurred, and again Sophie had to duck down out of the whistling gale to save her head from being blown off her shoulders. She crouched in the pocket and listened to the wind screaming past. It came knifing in through the tiny peephole in the pocket and whooshed around her like a hurricane. But this time, BFG didn't stay in top gear very long. It seemed as though he had some sort of barrier to cross, a vast mountain perhaps, or an ocean, or great desert. But having crossed it, he slowed it down again to his normal gallop, and Sophie was able to peep her head up and look once more at the view. She noticed immediately that they were now in an altogether paler country, and the sun had disappeared above a film of vapour. The air was becoming cooler every minute. The land was flat and treeless, and there seemed to be no colour in it at all. Every minute, mists became thicker, the air became colder still, and everything became paler and paler, until soon there was nothing but grey and white all around them. They were in a country of swirling mists and ghostly vapours. There was some sort of grass underfoot, but it was not green. It was ashy grey. There was no sign of a living creature, and no sound at all, except for the soft thud of the BFG's footsteps as he hurtled on through the fog. Suddenly he stopped. We is here at last, he announced. He bent down and lifted Sophie up from his pocket and put her on the ground. She was still in her nightie, and her feet were bare. She was shivering and stared around her at the swirling mists and ghostly vapours. Where are we? She asked. We is Dream Country, the BFG said. This is where all dreams are beginning. Chapter 12. Dream Catching. The big friendly giant left the suitcase on the ground. He bent so low that his enormous face was close to Sophie's. From now on, we is keeping as still as winky little mices, he whispered. Sophie nodded. The mist vapour was swirling around her. It made her cheeks damp and left dewdrops in her hair. BFG opened the suitcase and took out several empty glass jars. He set them ready on the ground with their screw tops removed. Then he stood up very straight. His disappearing, then appearing again. He was holding the long net in his right hand. Sophie, staring upwards, saw through the mist his colossal ears were beginning to swivel about from his head. They began waving gently to and fro. Suddenly, the BFG pounced. He leapt high in the air and swung his net through the mist with a great swishing sweep of his arm. Got him, he cried. A jar, a jar. Quick, quick, quick. Sophie picked up a jar and held it up to him. He grabbed hold of it and lowered the net. Very carefully, he dipped something absolutely invisible from the net into the jar. He dropped the net and swiftly clapping one hand over the jar, the top, he whispered, "Jar top, quick." Sophie picked up the screw top and handed it to him. He screwed it on tight and the jar was closed. The BFG was very excited. He held the jar close to one ear and listened intently. "It's a wing squiffler," he whispered with a thrill in his voice. It's even better. It's a fizz wizard. It's a golden fizz wizard. Sophie stared at him. Oh my, he said, holding the jar in front of him. This one will be given to a little toddler, a very happy night when I was blowing it in. Is it a really good one? Sophie asked. A good one, he cried. It's a golden fizz wizard. It is not often that I am getting one of these. He is handing the jar to Sophie and said, "Please be still as a starfish now. I was thinking there'd be a whole swarm of fizz wizards up here today, but do kindly stop breathing. It was terribly noisy down there." "I haven't moved a muscle," Sophie said. "Then don't," the BFG answered sharply. Once again, he stood up tall in the mist, holding his net at the ready. Then came the long silence, the waiting, the listening, and at last, with surprising suddenness, came the sweep and swish of the net. "Another jar," he cried. "Quick, quick, quick." When the second jury was safely in the jar, and the screw top was on, the BFG held it to his ear. "Oh no," he cried. "Oh mince my maggots. Oh swipe my swoggles." "What's the matter?" Sophie asked. "It's a troggle humper," he shouted. His voice was filled with fury and anguish. "Oh save our solos," he cried. "Deliver us from weasels. The devil is dancing on my nibbler." "What are you talking about?" Sophie said. The BFG was getting more and more distressed every moment. "Oh, bash my eyeballs," he cried, waving the jar in the air. "I came all this way to get lovely gold dreams, and what was I catching?" "What are you catching?" Sophie said. "I was catching a frightsome trogglewumper." can see it. There's something in there. Of course there's something in there, the BFG said. He was looking at a frightsome Trogglehumper. But you told me dreams were invisible. That they is always invisible until they is captured, the BFG told her. After that, they is losing a little of their invisibility. We are seeing this one quite clearly. Inside the jar, Sophie could see the faintest scarlet outline of something that looked like a mixture between a blob of gas and a bubble of jelly. It was moving violently, thrashing against the sides of the jar and forever changing shape. It's wriggling all over the place, Sophie cried. It's trying to bite to get out. It'll bash itself to bits. Nasty the dream, the angrier it is getting when it is in prison, the BFG said. It's the same as with wild animals. If an animal is very fierce and you are putting it in a cage, it will make a tremendous rumble-dumpus. It is a nice animal like cock-a-doodle or foggle-frump. It will sit quietly. Dreams is exactly the same. This one is a nasty, fierce, bog-rotting nightmare. Just look at him splashing himself against the glass. It's quite frightening, Sophie cried. I would be hating to get this one inside of me on a darksome night, the BFG said. As would I, Sophie said. The BFG started putting the bottles back into the suitcase. Is that all? Sophie said. Are we going? I is so upset by this troll-humping, bog-thumping grub switcher, the BFG said. I is not wishing to go on. Dream catching is finished for today. Soon, Sophie was back in the waistcoat pocket. The BFG was racing home as fast as he could go. When at last they emerged out of the mist, and came out again onto the hot yellow wasteland,